Let me tell you what they're doing to people right now. It's a friend of mine, known him for several years, Navy fighter pilot, degree in physics, IQ above mine, more carrier landings in 1 year than any other ensign. He was awarded that. He was one of 200 men Q capable. I know you probably don't know what Q capable means. It means capable to haul nuclear weapons. Navy allows 200 people at a time in the United States Navy who are certified to carry nuclear weapons at any given moment. There's 200. Never goes over that. Never goes under that. They choose 200 people. One retires, they put one more in. It's that simple. Q capable pilot. Highly educated man. Lived in Idaho. Drove to Massachusetts to help a friend move to Idaho that he had known for years. Pulls into a gas station in the state of New York. Police didn't like his trailer that he was moving with. In the state of Idaho, if you can see the taillights on a pickup, I don't know, every state has different statutes, but if you can see the taillights on the pickup, your taillights on the trailer don't necessarily have to work. They do want the license plate light to work. Isn't that kind of weird? Anyway, they don't have to. He had one on, working, fine, and one of them had went out. He didn't even know it had went out. Cops stopped him. Asked him for his driver's license. He says, "Oh, you don't use a driver's license. I don't drive." He goes, "I travel." The mistake he made is he didn't have the passport with him. He had a driver's license in the glove box of his car. They asked him if he could produce a passport. He says, "I have one, but I misplaced it. I was in a hurry to help my friend move." "Can we search your car?" "Nope." "Nope, you do not have my consent to search my vehicle." They walked him back to a cop car. Another police officer showed up and went through his vehicle. Not the one he had a conversation with. Another one. And they found his Colt 45 service weapon. In Idaho, there's not a pickup in the state that doesn't have guns in the car. That's a normal thing. Every one of them has one. I'd be surprised that you can find one that didn't. Usually there's one under the steering wheel, one under the seat, and two in the back window, and plenty of ammunition. Okay? That's what we do in the West. Look in my truck, you'll see the same thing. Okay? I'm prepared at all times. The only time I'm not is when I have to fly somewhere. And then I don't need it anyway, if I can get close enough. Okay? So there's a little law in the state of New York that if it's okay to have a gun in the car in New York, by the way, as long as your ammo is not within a close proximity of the gun. So you have to have your empty gun in the glove box, and since he's driving a pickup, probably in the very back next to the tailgate, his ammo, and then he'd be legal. It's not in close proximity. Of course, if he was carjacked or mugged at the gas station and a group of gang members is chasing some lady across the street, how does he grab his weapon and go help? Right? Dial 911 and wait 20 minutes for him to get there. Crime's over in about 30 seconds in most cases. Most cases, under a minute, for sure. So what happens? They lock him up. They haul him before a judge the next day, and the judge fines him something like, it was like $1,400 for the traffic offenses, and said, "We will send you a letter to tell you when you have to appear in court on the gun charge. And he takes off and he drives to Idaho. Never got a letter. Ever got a letter. He goes down to the state of Nevada and he helps another friend. And he gets stopped by a police officer for speeding. I think said he was 17 miles over the speed limit. And the police officer walks in the window and everybody speeds. The cops have to slow down to stop you in that state. It's miles of open desert road. Not another person for a long ways, or most of the time. And the cop says, I'm just going to give you a warning. 17 over the speed limit, no big deal. Except, I ran your plates, and you've got an outstanding warrant, and I have to hold you 3 days to see if the state of New York wants you or not. After 3 days, I'll turn you loose if they don't want you. On the third day, they flew him to New York. On the gun charge that happened 3 years ago. And this was in March of this year, I think. I'll read this and we'll know. But there's a reason I brought this, okay? Because I want to show you what they can do to you, or your neighbor, or your son, or your daughter, or your girlfriend. They can do stuff like this at a moment's notice in most states. So this is an important story to me. One reason is he served this country. Okay? It's very important to me. He didn't know about the corporate government when he was serving. He thought he was doing the right thing, being patriotic, loving his neighbor, protecting. Okay? So you take the intent, not the act. They haul him in front of a hearing, and he walks up there, and they say, Fred Benz. And he says, I don't know who that is. My name is Benz Frederick Richard. You must have the wrong guy. And the judge says, take him to the county jail. We're going to order a competency test. Puts him in jail. 2 or 3 days later, the psychologist shows up at the jail. And guess what? The psychologist says he's competent to stand trial. Guy's sharp as a tack. Competent to stand trial. So the judge doesn't like that. So he orders another psych eval. And the second psychologist comes in there and asks him a bunch of questions. And guess what? They're religious questions, and they're questions just like I'm teaching you today, the right answers to that you're not a person, you're a man. And Fred says, I'm not a person, I'm a man. I refuse to be a person. In fact, it's a sin to be a person. If you don't believe me, read Job 32:21 and 22. It says, be the man and not the person. Why did one author in the Bible over 2,000 years ago clearly distinguish between a person and a man? And it says, if I put a flattering title upon the man, surely he will sweep me away. In other words, it's a sin to claim to be a person. It's against your religion if you're a Christian. You might not have known that. Knowledge is key, right? For their lack of knowledge, they will be crucified. Or many other ways they say it in various verses of the Bible. Over and over and over again, precept upon precept, they say it over and over. Why are you persons? See, I'm teaching you not to be. I'm teaching you the very basics. If you are, you're going to get destroyed. And it's a sin to claim to be a person. Most people had no idea. Right? We're people, not persons. So, to my fellow aviators, military men and women, and all Americans, you tell me if this sounds like a guy who's insane. See, the second psychologist asked him political and religious questions that he answered right. When you have the knowledge I have, he answered them correctly. And the psychologist, who doesn't have a degree in the law or religion, and he probably was taking underwater basket weaving through college, marked the answers as wrong, found him delusional psychotic. And then they went back to the first psychologist and said, don't you think he could use some additional treatment? And the guy acquiesced and said, okay. And so without any due process of law, without a trial, without a jury of his peers, they put him in a maximum security Hudson River forensic maximum security psychological center. That's what it's called, long name. And I went there to visit him. And you go see him, and this next Friday, they're going to try and do a court order to force him to take psychic drugs that literally make those guys zombies. There was a guy staring at the wall. He wasn't near a window, and he was staring at the wall. And I'm sitting there talking to Fred in this big, kind of like a cafeteria, tables and chairs, right? That's where you get to visit patients. And there's this guy staring at the wall over there. And I'm kind of just glancing over, looking at him. What's he doing? Fred says, that guy's really sharp. I used to play chess with him. Then they put him on the same medication they want to put me on. Now he's a zombie. You know why they do that? Because they don't want the media showing up to do a report on the hospital and not see patients who are extremely intelligent and can speak their mind and can carry on a good conversation. It's supposed to be a mental health hospital. They're supposed to have mental disabilities, so they make them look like they do by the hundreds. And they get paid very well out of the Cesta QV Trust that I explained yesterday to do it. And they do it under court order with no due process of law, no trial by a jury of his peers, no right to defend himself, no documentation. He hadn't had a chance to put in any of that. Literally, took him after the third day, the second hearing in the third day, which lasted, both of them lasted less than 15 seconds, and put in an order, the judge put in an order to put him in the mental facility. So when I read this, I want you to tell me if you think this man sounds like he belongs in a mental institution. This is his own letter, his own writing, a flyer that he made to pass out to his fellow Navy aviators at the air show coming up, the Naval Air Show coming up in Reno, Nevada. He made this flyer, mailed it to me, had me make hundreds of copies and get them out down there. So I did. Or I am. It's coming up here shortly. 42 years ago, April 7th, 1977, I, Frederick Richard Benz, swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution for the United States of America. Sorry, I get choked up. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to bear true faith to the same. We all took this oath. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no expiration to this oath. Many times we are thankful for our service to our country, but how often are we truly deserving of these things? My plight. Simply put, I challenge the jurisdiction of a state of New York court. He had 15 seconds. He said, I hereby challenge jurisdiction. I am not the person, I'm the man. This is my name. I order a psych eval. Hearing was done. That's how long it took. Right there. And I was sent to an insane asylum. Normally, once jurisdiction is challenged, the court has to prove in writing and on the record that it is jurisdiction, or in other terms, authority to try a case. It cannot proceed until it has proven that it has the authority to make rulings and orders. I challenged the County of Saratoga, New York court on April 4th, 2019. I filed a demand for dismissal due to lack of jurisdiction. Since then, I've filed an additional 4 documents. He's done this now after he's been in. Okay. No ruling has been made on those demands to date. Thursday, August 22nd, 2019, instead of making a ruling, the court took discretion where it had none. It broke a Supreme Court ruling in Videk versus Jones of 1980, conducted no hearing He doesn't have a law library in the insane asylum, guys. He's quoting law off the top of his head. No computer to reference anything, no phone, no smartphone, no Google. You see what I mean? Bidek versus Jones, 1980, conducted no hearing and sent me to the Mid-Hudson Forensic Psychiatric Facility in New Hampton, New York. I was not allowed to face my accusers. There was no real hearing, no real trial. I was secretly sentenced to an insane asylum. This was a star chamber type event here in America, the land we all swore to protect. This is despicable and a violation of the 5th, 6th, and 7th Amendments to the Constitution. So my fellow brothers and sisters, is this what you signed up to protect? My crime? I was charged with possessing a gun, which according to the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution is a right and necessary, as we are all members of the militia once past the age of 15. Please do not make light of my plight. For more than 2 months, I have been locked up in this place where pharmaceuticals are used to re-educate the poor souls that have been sent here for incompetency. Yes, they are attempting to gain a court order forcing me to take mind-altering drugs, an action prohibited by my religion. The way out of here is to adhere to their doctrines of law, where the courts have the power to judge a man, not a jury of his peers per the common law. I served 14 years in the active and reserve Navy. I flew the A-7E off the forward deployed USS Midway, CV-41, a member of Air Wing 5. In July 1980, the Tailhook Symposium awarded me the most carrier landings by any ensign in the Navy. I am an Eagle Scout, a graduate of Harvey Mudd College in physics. I'm a man with children at home and a wife of almost 27 years, and I am not happy. Yes, it is very fun flying for the Navy. We think we are standing between the enemies of America and our brothers and sisters at home. But we are allowing tyranny to occur daily upon our land. It is time to wake up and take action. Our biggest problem is our courts, where we are being fleeced daily and squirreled away in insane asylums by the hundreds if we object. He is watched. He calls me on the phone 2 or 3 times a week. And he has watched good people come in, like you and I, and then put on mind-altering drugs, and they become zombies because they're afraid. It's a money-making scheme, and they don't want any outside visitors coming in and seeing people without severe mental difficulties. So they create them with chemical drugs, pharmaceuticals. He said he's never seen a place where there is more drug dealers in his entire life than the staff at Mid-Hudson Forensics. That's what he told me on the phone. They're pushing high doses, 800 plus milligrams. I'll get to it. I'm telling you. You can get involved as you got involved with the military. You can pass this memo to all you know, put it on the internet, call your friends, get them involved. Read, learn, think. The corruption is all around us. It will not go away until we show it to all Americans. That's why I'm telling you here. Evil cannot stand the light of truth. These evil guys are like cockroaches. And when they're operating in the dark of their black robes in their dark, dim courtrooms, and you walk in there and you shine sunlight, they scurry into the cracks. Let me tell you, they do. When you stand in a courtroom like I stand in a courtroom, they shake and run out of the room half the time. Okay? My family is at great risk We need financial support while I'm incarcerated. Further, I need financial help in obtaining assistance. Please send whatever you can via PayPal to straightint@msn.com. He's telling you to send the money to me. He says, David, you're the only one I trust that can do this. Help me. Get me out of here. Put it this way. I've now spent, well, with Jackie and her airfare and hotels, I spent $4,150 myself going there and with my expenses to fly and stay in a hotel and rent a car and travel up to Saratoga County and stay in a hotel there and file documents. I spent 8 days there. I spent $4,150 in costs. State of New York, your tax on a rental car was $169 for the week. That's more money than I'm going to spend for a rental car in Arkansas for these 4 days. That car is $20 a day, $80. Okay? So just the tax in New York on a rental car was more. Everything there's more. A hotel's $200 a night if you can find a cheap one. Okay? If you know me, please send a notarized affidavit of character to the above email. Come and visit me if you want to hear it from the horse's mouth. I am not insane, delusional, nor psychotic. Ultimately, I plan a malpractice suit against everybody involved. Thank you in advance for your support. This is not about me, but rather us and our children's future. Having read this, if you do not believe we are in trouble, hear the words of Thomas Jefferson. If a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects whatever was and what never will be. May God bless you, Frederick Richard, former Lieutenant Commander, United States Navy. Sorry. Look at me. Look at the scars. Want to see bullet holes? I got a shot right here in the chest. I stood and defended this country in more ways than one. And nothing hurts more